Okay, so that unboxing experience was pretty epic, right? Handheld gaming continues to become ever more popular, so it's only natural to check out another one on the channel. And this is one that I've been interested in trying out since it was first released, and now even more so with new, more powerful models arriving like the one that I'm holding. So today, we're going to be putting this Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS advanced by AMD Ryzen processors handheld through its paces to see whether it's worth picking up. Let's dive in. Now, if you've been around my channel and content for a while, you know I do love a good handheld gaming device. I've tried out a good few up to this point, but one that I never got the chance to get my hands on was the Lenovo Legion Go, or the Legion Go S. It caught my eye for a couple of reasons when it first released, the first being the simple fact that it finally came in a colorway other than black or white. A simple reason I know that a lot of people probably don't care about, but I liked it. And also the fact that this device comes in two versions, a Windows 11 version and one that runs SteamOS instead. And that's the one that we're going to be taking a look at today. I'll go through all the ins and outs of the device itself and then boot up a bunch of games and see what kind of performance we can get out of it. Now, I know we had that super cool unboxing at the start of the video, but sadly, that's not what you'll be getting if you pick up one of these. You'll be getting this instead. So let's take a quick look at what you would actually get in the box if you were to grab one yourselves. Opening up the box, we have a couple of smaller boxes. In here, we of course have the handheld itself, and we'll talk about this in more detail in a second. Then in the smaller box, we have the 65-watt USB-C charger. And there's also a couple of nice little touches in here too. First of all, the packaging that housed the handheld has some quick instructions on the side for how to power on the device for the first time, and then on the bottom it has some info on different ways you can use the device to play. But then in here we have this extra little box, and if you fold out the flaps on both sides, it actually doubles up as a nifty little stand for the device, which is pretty cool. So now let's take a look at the device itself, and this thing looks so nice. As I mentioned, I love the fact that this doesn't just come in black or white, but also this lovely dark purple colorway which Lenovo call Nebula Nocturne, and it really is a beautiful color. The device also has a nice rounded design with ergonomically shaped grips on either side and this nice textured finish on each to improve grip. We have a standard asymmetrical thumbstick layout with some RGB lighting rings around the sticks, a multi-directional D-pad on the left, and ABXY buttons on the right. Then we also have two small buttons on either side of the screen, which we'll talk about more later. Below the right stick, there's also a touchpad included in case you're wanting to use cursor control rather than navigating with the D-pad. And then finally down near the bottom, we have a front-facing speaker on each side. On the back, there are two buttons, one on either side, and these control various things depending on the game that you're playing. Then there's also these two interesting little switches which I'll come onto in a minute. Then we have the intake vents for cooling, some Lenovo and Legion branding, and of course on the edges are the ergonomic grips for holding the device. Moving to the top, we find the bumpers and triggers, and this is where those little switches come in. You see, these actually allow you to adjust the range of the triggers for the kind of feel that you prefer. Right now with the switches down, the triggers are softer to move and have plenty of travel. But flick these switches up, and now the triggers have this much more tactile clicky feeling with far less travel. So you can switch between the two depending on what you're playing and which mode you prefer, which is a nice little addition. Elsewhere on the top is the power button, volume controls, 3.5mm combo audio jack for headphones and mic, two USB-C connectors, and then the air vent outlets. Then finally, flipping it over, on the bottom we have a micro SD card slot. I'm definitely digging the design here. The color is really nice and the camera doesn't do it justice. I also really like the rounded design overall compared to the more angular look a lot of other handhelds have gone for. So now let's talk about the specs this is packing. This is one of the new models of the Legion Go S advanced by AMD Ryzen processors, and it features a beefy AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor. But you can also get one with the AMD Ryzen Z2 Go processor instead. It also has up to 32GB of LPDDR5X 6400 mega transfers RAM, and a 1TB M.2 2242 PCIe Gen 4 SSD for storage. So it's certainly got some good powerful hardware packed in, not to mention features like AMD RDNA 3 architecture and FSR to boost frame rates in game, and we'll see how that stacks up with some gaming performance shortly. In terms of screen, the Legion Go S packs a sizable 8-inch IPS screen with a 1920 by 1200 resolution and a 16:10 aspect ratio. And this helps to provide a 37% larger viewing area over 7-inch handhelds in crisp 1080p. It also has a 120Hz refresh rate for buttery smooth visuals and VRR support as well. Colours on screen are very nice and vibrant with 100% sRGB coverage and a peak brightness of 500 nits, which I've found is more than enough to enjoy gaming. I'll admit, whenever new handhelds come out, I do always wish for an OLED screen, but to be fair, this one still looks very nice and is enough to tide me over. And if you're worried about this getting too hot, the Legion Go S also has advanced thermal technology with Legion Cold Front to make sure that this doesn't happen. And from my testing, I've had no issues with the device heating up too much and becoming uncomfortable. And finally, in terms of operating system, as mentioned, you can get a Windows 11 version, but this one I have here actually runs on SteamOS, and so it's fully optimized for running your Steam library. You could also switch to desktop mode if you prefer, and both the touchpad and right thumbstick can be used to control the cursor. But that's enough about hardware and software. What you guys want to know is how well do your games actually run on here? Well, we're going to put that to the test right now. I've downloaded some games from my Steam library onto the Legion Go S so we can put them through their paces and see how they perform. I wasn't able to test out quite as many games as I usually would because, well, my Steam library isn't quite as extensive as you might think. I usually do a lot of my gaming elsewhere, so I didn't have too much available for this, but we still have a handful, so let's try them out now, starting off with a classic, Cyberpunk 2077. I almost always test this out when I'm benchmarking devices so I can see a comparison between different platforms, different devices, and because, well, it's fun to play. And as you can see, running here on the Legion Go S, it was able to achieve an average of around 65 FPS, and that was with the graphics settings set to around mid to high. And just for the record, all of the games that I'm testing will be running the same graphics settings, with AMD FSR turned on as well, and of course, all will be in 1080p too. So next up then is Starfield, and every time I test this out, I remember that I've really not played enough of this and need to find the time to sit and play it more. As for the performance though, it's pretty similar, as you can see, hovering around the 60 to 65 FPS mark for the most part. Next then, let's jump into a nice new game with some Sid Meier's Civilization 7. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really play the Civilization series and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing in this game, but the reason we're here is to test out how well it runs, not how well I play. And as you can see, well, just about, as the HUD makes the FPS counter hard to read, but here we're getting around 120 to 125 FPS. Finally then is a game I do know a lot about, Horizon Forbidden West. I really wish they would hurry up and announce the next game in this series because I absolutely love it. And we're seeing some nice performance on here too, with the FPS level averaging around 80 to 85 for the most part. So overall then, the performance of the Legion Go S is not bad at all. Every game I tried was easily able to get at least 60 FPS, with some up around 120. Playing games on here is a good experience. I noticed no issues with stuttering on any of them, like I've had in the past on some other devices. Frame rates, as I've mentioned, were nice and smooth, and the games themselves looked very nice. So absolutely no complaints from me in terms of gaming performance on this device. So now let's talk about what the device is actually like to use. Now, the bigger screen is definitely a nice feature because, well, you're getting much more screen real estate than many other handhelds, but how does that extra size affect the rest of the device? Well, of course, it does increase the overall size of the handheld, but personally, I think it's a good size. Even accommodating the big screen, the device doesn't feel too big and bulky, it's nice and easy to hold and still a good size for portability, which is of course the main aim for a handheld device. In terms of weight, the Go S is actually a decent weight for playing those long gaming sessions. It doesn't feel too heavy and it doesn't make your arms and wrists feel tired after a while. It's very nice all round. Comfort wise, the grips on here are very comfy to hold. They're well sculpted to sit very comfortably in the hands, and they allow your fingers to sit on the buttons and triggers naturally, which is always a bonus. And the textured finish on the grips makes it feel nice and secure in your hands. The device doesn't slide around or move, which would be very annoying. So they've done a very good job designing this device, and I've already said earlier on that I'm a big fan of the design, and the ergonomics definitely get my seal of approval as well. In terms of menus and UI, if you're used to SteamOS, then this will be pretty self-explanatory for you. When you boot up the device, it will launch you into a version of Steam optimized for handhelds, and it's nice and easy to navigate. I briefly mentioned those little buttons next to the screen, and they can be used to navigate through the menus within the OS. Top left, we have this button with a Steam logo, and pressing this brings up the sidebar menu where you can navigate through your library, store, settings, and also power the device on and off, or switch to desktop mode. Then on the opposite side, pressing this button brings up the device quick settings, and in here you can change things like the brightness, volume, power and performance settings, and more. And if you don't want to use this device this way, you can always switch to desktop mode, which gives you a more Windows-like experience with a cursor that can be controlled with the right thumbstick or the touchpad below it. It just depends on which of these methods you prefer. So would I recommend picking up one of these for yourself? Well, as we've seen, the gaming performance on here is pretty good throughout. We're seeing nice high frame rates and smooth, fluid, stutter-free gameplay, which is always a bonus. You get the choice between not only different hardware like the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor or the AMD Ryzen Z2 Go, but also the operating system with both Windows and SteamOS versions available. The device is also very nicely designed, comfortable to hold and use, and as you've heard, I'm a big fan of this purple colorway. Take note, tech brands, we need some nice colors for devices like this. The Legion Go S starts at £529 right now for the Z2 Go 16GB RAM version, which is a decent price compared to many others, so value-wise, it's certainly one to keep an eye on. And I'll have links down in the description, of course, if you want to check this out for yourself. Thank you guys very much for watching today's video. I was a bit under the weather filming this one, so I appreciate any support on here. Not that I don't always appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to drop a like, and of course, let me know any thoughts or questions you have down in the comments. And make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'll be back soon with another video. Have a great week. See you later.